All right, perfect.
All good, great.
Well, thank you for staying so late. I know this is the last talk. I promise you, you're not going to have to think at all. It's very, very simple. This is all sugar, so don't worry. All right, I'm going to talk about one graph. It's a very, very simple idea. We just want a GraphQL wrapper around existing public APIs, and we'll see what that idea looks like. So let's say, for example, I want to interact with the YouTube API. And so inside of this GraphQL Explorer, or graphical, I can go ahead and pull down YouTube video, given an ID, and I can pull that back out. I actually made a network request for that to get that same string back. And let me give you one caveat here. Whenever we wrap a public API, we want to make sure that we have the same exact structure that they have. We don't introduce any sugar or anything like that. So if you're reading their documents, you'd be able to use this. And I say that as a caveat because the YouTube API is a bit strange. For example, if I want to get the title of a video, it's under a thing called snippet. So if I go ahead and run that, there we go. I can pull out the title of this video. And I may want to, for example, pull out the comments. And we take care of things, obviously, like pagination, automatically. So I can go in here. For each of those comments, I want to pull out the snippet and get the top level reply, and then get the snippet of that. I get the author display name, and I'll pull out the text original. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually reaching out to the YouTube API, getting some information about the video, and then saying, give me the top level comments for all this video. So I'm going to take that out. Because what might be more interesting is typically you might want to say, like, I want to know the channel ID for this video. Pull that out. And this is where you would usually kind of run into a barrier with REST, right? You'd make an API call, you'd get that ID back, and you would manually make another API call to get some information about the channel. And obviously with GraphQL, we can just hop over there. So I may want to say, just get the title about the channel. So I'd run that. There we go. Now, on YouTube, you can associate your accounts, your channels, with things like Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. So let's say, for example, I want to say, for every Twitter link, I want to open up Twitter, and I want to get the 5 most recent tweets from this channel. And for each of those tweets, I want to go ahead and pull out the text. And now we're over in the Twitter API. And the Twitter API itself exposes this idea of entities. So this is things like user mentions or hashtags or URLs. So I'm going to say, give me all the entities in each of these 5 tweets. Give me any user mentions. I want to know the screen name. And for each of those users that were mentioned, I want to go ahead and go grab their timeline. And I want to get the 5 most recent tweets from them. So I'll get those tweets. And for each of those, I'll get the text. But this is important because obviously we know we started in YouTube and we're over on Twitter. The thing we're going to want to do next is say, if they did tweet anything about YouTube, I actually want to go back into YouTube and get the title of that video. So I'll go ahead and run that. And we're actually making something like 30 different API calls across all these different services, munching it all together, and then there we go. Now, one thing that really bothers me about APIs right now is they're all snowflake. They are unique, right? I want to put authentication in the header, but we put it in the body, or we do it in the request parameters. And that doesn't help me at all, right? I want to have like a uniform way of accessing all of this data. I kind of think of it as like if I was searching through my files on my computer, and every time I wanted to click on a file, like it had a different interface, right? Like that's madness. If they did have a uniform interface, we could do something like this, where show me everything that we have. Maybe I want to build like a Gmail application. And so I can actually just click through here and explore this API, literally building it up like this. So I want to get the expanded one. I'll pull out the messages, get the payloads there, do the headers. And so I'm going to run this. And this is actually going to go against my actual Gmail right now. It's pulling down a ton of my emails, and it's giving me just the headers, so things like the from, the to, the subject, that kind of thing. And I don't have to have any server for this. I can literally just run this from an HTML page. That is the easiest anyone has ever written a Gmail integration, I promise you. But there's no reason why any API shouldn't be explorable this way. Generally speaking, we just want to say, here's my data, and I want to be able to explicitly describe what I want, and I don't need to know about your unique way that you do authentication or anything like that. So we actually build on top of Google Compute. So what I'm going to do here, and we wrap all of the Google APIs. So I'm going to do a reactive demo. And we also have mutations as well. So I'm going to run this mutation. This is actually going to insert an instance. This is going to create a new computer on the Google Compute Cloud. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to list my instances. And I see that it's running already. I've made a query that pulls out lots of information, but importantly, it pulls out the IP. Let me make this bigger for you guys. And it might take a second as it's booting, it's running, but it's still a Linux machine, it's booting up. And whenever we're finished with that, I'm going to want to run another mutation, which is to simply get rid of that machine. There we go. All right, and so we literally just created a server on Google Compute using GraphQL, and I didn't have to know anything about their API. If I was interested in how it actually worked, because of the data-oriented nature of GraphQL, I can literally click through, and it tells me, for example, whenever I'm creating an instance, I need to do things like give it a disk, and I can see what that looks like. The tools actually help me interact with all of this stuff. So now I'm done with that, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that instance. It'll go away in just a second. And this one is very cool. This one I quite like. Oftentimes I just want to dump a bit of data into a spreadsheet. And so what we do is we wrap the Google Spreadsheets API. But what I want to do is actually parameterize it. I want to turn this into a function, because that spreadsheet API is super powerful. It's clay, it can do anything. But I really don't want to do anything. I just want to append a thing. So what I'm saying, I'm creating a mutation that's parameterized by name and an email. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I'll say reactive demo. Run that. And literally, it just works. And what I can do is actually save this query, this mutation, so I can consume it from anywhere else, even somewhere that doesn't know about GraphQL. For example, on our homepage, if you want to sign up, right, check this out. Whenever we're working with it from React, for example, this is all the code it takes. I save that mutation, and I get an ID back. And now all I have to do is provide it with the variables like name and date and email. And now if I run this, it just works. So literally, I can interact with the Google Spreadsheets API from the client, no server, and it works exactly as I want. Instead of being clay, it's Legos. And I can connect these things together very, very easily. All right, thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Sean.